You can't know your worth if you can't know your price, how much you're going to charge. I have a lot of clients that are like, how much do I charge? How much do I charge? Oh my God, that's too much, blah, blah, blah. People struggle when they're in their own business with that. If you don't know your place. None of us know our place because we were in the wrong alliance. We either parented our parents, we either were the husband to our mother, we were either the Cinderella and clean the house for mom, we were the babysitter to the brother. We weren't just allowed to be a child, normal, whatever that means, and mom and dad healthy, taking care of their things. Someone told me yesterday, I'm trying to remember, someone told me yesterday about how they had to do something for their parents because I think it was the language, or was it at lunch?
I told you that I was the translator for my family when I was 6 years old.
Okay, I don't think that's the one I'm thinking about, but that's a common one, especially in our country. The child becomes a translator. Oh, who was sick? Maddie said someone was sick and she had to be the nurse, right?
No, that was Maria yesterday.
Oh, Maria.
Oh.
Maria's brother had leukemia and had a port. And she was responsible, her parents were separated, and she was responsible for putting heparin and cleaning out at 11 years old. That becomes a maternal thing. That is a wrong alliance. Your children are supposed to be children. The adults are supposed to be adults. Raise your hand if you have met an adult that is not an adult. And raise your hand if you have met a children or were a child that wasn't able to be a child. Exactly. This is the beginning of the problems. It started at conception, but it starts living out because we have a wrong alliance to one parent. Mom has to work, there are too many siblings, there's not enough money, God forbid you get raped by your father, whatever it is. Some crap happened, your alliance was fucked. This is what I told you the other day, is where triangulations come in and why there's infidelity and why we drink and why we smoke and why we're workaholics, and that will come when truth is in the triangle when we do this for relationships. But this is a big deal. So when I ask you, is that orange juice that's, we're going to pretend sour and taste horrible and is making you miserable, is that your mother or your father? And you say your mother, you are already in the role of who? No, if the orange juice is your mother, then you must be in the role of the child. The moment that you ask your client, is this person, place, thing, or situation your mother or your father? They must be the child. And that is going to start showing you the dysfunction of the system. Because if every child had a wrong alliance, that eraser, that anger, that orange juice, that cold coffee is going to bring up the root cause of the problem. I had a wrong alliance with my parents. They didn't meet my needs. They didn't love me unconditionally. I had to do this for them when they should have done it for me. And everything I put on the board. And it's just from a stinking sour orange juice. Every single person, place, thing, or situation that shows up in your life that causes some sort of problem, On a scale of 1 to 10, I don't care if it's your nail breaking or if it is your best friend dying, is a representation of your mother and the father and the wrong alliance, and in that situation that you created, you are trying to get your needs met. Therefore, if you have a wrong alliance with your parents, how did you get your needs met?
By looking for it.
You didn't, but you did in a dysfunctional way. How did you get your needs met? If you know now that every single person has a wrong alliance with their parents.
Is that where, like, you pick up vices, I guess?
Where you pick up vices?
Yeah,
Like what?
Like alcohol and...
Okay, usually not at 3 or 4 years old. So
Oh,
let's,
Oh,
that's true later on, but let's think of 0 to 7.
you see.
You are responsible for cleaning out your brother's port. You're responsible for making dinner for the younger siblings because your mom has to work. You're responsible for taking care of your dad because he's an incompetent asshole because your mother walked out on him.
She's talking about.
What happens? How does that person get their needs met?
Gets by acting like a child or against it or something.
They start
Think.
seeking for it through other,
Attention?
maybe family members or friends or other.
Fees and them.
Say that out loud.
By fees and apparent needs.
By pleasing the parent and meeting the parent's needs. This is where we all become narcissists, control freaks, and we think that we matter. This is where our God complex comes in. Oh, you mean to tell me that if I clean the kitchen and bring you a nice cup of coffee and put my brothers to bed at night, that you're gonna love me? Wow, sounds good. Gonna do it. You mean to tell me that if I get good grades, you're happy? Because normally you're just crying in the corner because your husband left you? I'll bring you good grades. And we start developing our false persona about what we are in control of, which is nothing. But it started because we had a wrong alliance, and within that wrong alliance, we learned how to falsely meet our own needs. We learned to pretend that we were in control of something. And we learned, and why every one of you wants to be a therapist, that you can actually help someone and make someone feel better. Ha ha ha.
Or make yourself feel better.
That's the only thing you're in control of, but that's not what you did and learned.
No, right.
Maybe beyond masturbation.
What about like when the parents are busy doing work or too busy for the child, and they start buying him or her?
Then that's what you learn.
Okay.
Oh,
But that's materialism.
doesn't matter. That's one of the bucket dick in the box threads. It's a dick in a box. It's nothing pretty. It has a function, but it's nothing pretty. So now I don't know my place. I might become materialistic. I might become a control freak. I might clean the house with bleach. I might overparent everybody. I might become the best cook. I might have a barbecue and serve everyone food, but never actually sit down to eat.
Yeah.
Everybody gets
Eventually.
revealed in this class because of a wrong alliance. You must understand this. This is super, super important because it's the only thing that's going to explain why the first question is, was the situation your mother or your father? Now, I honestly can give a shit what answer the client gives. It's not about them really knowing if it's their mother or their father. It's about putting them in the mindset of them being a child and bringing them back to that child that was loved conditionally for what they were useful for. So it's a little trick that I use. And oftentimes clients will be like, oh, that's definitely my dad. Great, move on, next question. I don't let them linger in that too much, but my point is to get them into the child square.
But a lot of clients not gonna know, okay, like what you just said, the orange juice. I'm in class, so it's like, okay, eventually I know the mother part. Like I know it's triangle, but you're gonna have clients that don't know this and gonna be like, what do you mean?
Okay, what did I say on Tuesday? And what did I just do right here? What did I say was one of the big problems that happens in therapy? And what did I say that I was spending all of Tuesday doing? And something I personally think is very important for therapists to do. Have a common language. That's why when you call a therapist, there's a show Gypsy, and she's a therapist, she's a cognitive behavioral therapist, and she says that in the show. I don't know if someone called or someone was talking to her. She goes, I am a cognitive behavioral therapist. If I tell you, Tanisha, tomorrow I am going to see a pulmonologist, what am I going to see? A lung doctor. If I tell you I am going to see a manicurist, where am I going? To get my nails done. In therapy, we have a little bit of lack. A lot of people don't understand the difference between social work, mental health counselors, psychologists. Within that, they don't understand all of the types of theories or theorists or ways to practice. I believe personally that's one of the drawbacks of our profession is that those things are not defined clearly. So my recommendation to you since day one is have a common language, have a handout. These are the rules of this practice. You show up on time, this is what I told you. The client sits. I say, do you know what we're doing today? Because most of my clients are referrals. Most of them will say, no, not a clue. And I say, great, no one knows. And then I tell them, we're doing this, this, and this. This is how it's going to work. I'm going to get up. I'm going to light the altar. I'm going to come behind you with Holy Stick. I'm going to read a prayer. That's when I do Akashic Records. When I do shadow work, then I start with the shadow work. We're doing something called shadow work. These are the rules of the therapy. And I told you Tuesday that I spend 90 minutes that first session, most of it talking the common language, teaching them the theory, and then the last half hour plotting in one example so that they can go home and do it for homework. I've got a podcast, the website is loaded with information, there's a free workbook, there's a book coming out later, there's a bunch of resources. So you equip your client with the knowledge, with the language, with the information. Then you start building. I don't do this with every client every single time. I rarely go through every step every single time. But if I hear something, I can then pull them to a question. Or I can assign a ceremony or a ritual, which is step 7. Or I can say, Mary, take out your rule book. What did you write about sex in your rule book? But we had to establish common language and common terms and rules. It's the syllabus of the class. Your practice should have that. in my recommendation. Because most people are ignorant, not for any fault of their own, about what a cognitive behavioral therapist is, what, a psychologist might do different. Some people don't know that psychiatrists are the one that give medications and that they're just doctors giving you pills. They don't do therapy. So people aren't necessarily educated. So that could be a handout that you give out. This is the differences of all the people, and this is where I fall in to the scheme of this. So I spend a lot of time so that my client can answer. And then I say, obviously the orange juice is not the problem, I'm just being silly, but my point is that I can show any client that anything that causes discomfort, even a cold cup of coffee, which is not the end of the world, leads you to the core problem that's in your subconscious. So that discomfort with an unsavory orange juice, or her not being notified by her friend, or the parent that lost that child, no matter how severe the issue, it leads you to your problem, where you built your story and your narrative. That's the purpose of this model. And like I've said before, this is my model. You do not have to use it, but there's a lot of teaching in it that might help you when you do your own clients. Okay? But we have to understand that upon having a mother and a father, every single person had a wrong alliance. In the Latin community, don't tell your father. And the mom will hide it. Ay, no le diga a tu padre. And then the mom, covers it. Ay, mi amor. Or, that's an alliance where the mom is now allying with the child to help the kid out. A simple example. Or, wait till your father gets home. The mother's calling the shots, but she's got to put the father as the face of the man, so the kid trembles, and then the mother goes, don't worry, I'll talk to dad. That's all wrong alliance. Because in reality, in a world that does not exist in this plane, your parents should be equal. I need 3 people. 3 people.
One,
A woman. I need a woman. I need
I'm
at
a
least
child.
one girl. Someone stand up. There's not a big deal. We're just going to show you something.
and 3.
Okay. So you're going to be the mom, and you're going to be the dad. And Gerson, you're going to be the child. And I want you guys to hold Gerson like this, okay? You are going to set the pace. You're going to walk to that wall, and you're going to walk back. You set the pace. Just watch. Do not talk. He sets the pace. You guys do whatever you want. Just watch. Go. Okay. What did you observe? You
The
guys can sit.
father watched the pace the whole time. Mom, she'll watch it for a while and bring the head back up. But
Okay, but
father
what did you
didn't
notice
watch.
about Gerson?
He, he just walked.
Okay, he walked at times, but other times he kept looking at their feet, especially James, to see how fast James was walking. He didn't necessarily set the pace. How did you feel that your mom was walking with you? What adjectives? How did it feel to have mom next to you?
Like neither good nor bad, like neutral.
Neutral. And what about dad?
Also, the either good or bad.
Okay, so you didn't feel that anyone pulled you or guided you or anything like that? Okay, what did you feel as the mom?
I felt like I was being left behind. That's why I was like looking at the floor, which I always do because I don't know why. Like I always feel, well, with him, yeah, I felt like I had to be at his pace. So I looked at the floor every time he made a step, I kind of did it too.
And James?
Hesitance on my part, just trying to, like, keep up with his pace instead of, like, going forward, so I find myself, like, hesitating to go forward, like,
Okay.
my normal step.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the same thing like that.
Okay, 3 other people. I need another child.
I mean,
I don't know what we're doing.
3
Just getting
up.
volunteers.
just volunteering.
We need a woman, a man, and somebody else.
Stand over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stand over there.
So let's
Okay.
get-
So we need one more person.
So you could be the
Oh,
child,
good, okay.
and they could be mom and dad. You want to be mom or dad?
I don't care. I'll be dad.
Okay, so you be mom, and James is gonna be the child.
That's great.
My son.
Child in the middle. And just walk to the wall and back.
Great.
And we spin around like this.
Mhm. Whoa,
All right.
whoa, 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 who've got in this?
It is, let's go.
Just gonna love it too much, you know what I mean?
We spin it again.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt. It's perfectly fine.
What did we notice?
What we sitting down?
Different paces.
Different
You were-
paces.
yeah, you were
They were
putting
sort of
them down.
competing for
Yeah.
who was gonna be.
Yeah.
Who's going to
What?
Watch yourself, son.
I'm just
Um,
gonna be hurt, so.
Dad was
Daddy
definitely
Jim,
in charge there,
Mm.
taking over. How did that make you feel that Dad was sort of putting
Well, I had
his
to-
foot
I was
down?
like, look, back up.
Yeah, she
Now, I'm the one that's controlling this situation.
That's
And
what,
then he was pulling
Said
me,
it,
so.
but
Yeah,
she kept
exactly.
controlling.
In a little bit after I just went, I was like,
Yeah. How did
Then
mom,
I
how did
took
mom
control.
feel?
He tried to bring mom up.
I
Yeah.
was like, he was trying to push her, but then he was pulling me, so I was
Yeah.
like, hey, just wait a little bit here, you know what I mean?
We both gotta
this is
be
a pretty
on
dominant situation. I'm just saying.
Okay, you guys can sit down.
this one.
So ideally, if we were to walk with our parents, the child should lead, and your father-parent gives you like the permission, and your mother gives you more of like the patience. And an ideal situation, a child that feels that. But we see that we're not always in those dynamics, okay? Where are your parents?
Oh, my father's I think in Texas right now, and my mother lives here. Because my father's a truck driver, so he travels all around.
Okay, and your mom and you live together?
Yes,
Okay. Who are you closer to?
my mom.
Okay. Because your answers were sort of like, neutral, whatever, here nor there. Do they support you? Do they help you financially? Do they,
Yes.
they do stuff for you?
Yeah.
Okay. How is your dad? Is your dad imposing?
I don't know.
You don't know
No,
if he
I
had that type of
genuinely don't know.
personality?
I think he's more passive than anything, but that's, I don't really know, honestly.
Okay. That may, I mean, everything's something, but that may or may not be what manifests. But what manifests is that when you're given an assigned role of mother, father, and child, we don't necessarily assume, quote unquote, the role that gender, society, whatnot, will expect. Okay? So that's just sort of an exercise to show that people are kind of pulling and pushing and competing, even with, she was yanked. And oftentimes, it is the wrong alliance. It is demonstrating. And remember, every family dynamic is ego. If there is not unconditional love, what is there? Ego and competition. The antithesis to unconditional love, which is Venus, is Mars, which is ego,
What's the word
which
you-
is competition.
What's that word you use?
Antithesis is like opposite, the opposite of. So if the glyph for unconditional love is Venus, and the opposite is Mars, this is female or mom, compassion, patience, dad gives permission, it's ego, it's, like movement or doing, competition. And since we know that we don't have unconditional love, how do we get our value in our family? We are not loved unconditionally. How do we get our love in our family? By competing and by trying to be first, by getting validation, by getting permission. So we ask permission to do things or we don't. So we are constantly trying to force ourselves into the triangle. Always, we're trying to fit in. Because nobody was born in their proper place. No one minded their plek. And if you don't mind your plek, if you don't mind your place, you don't know your price. And price in that statement means worth. And this is why we're all low self-worth. So we think with the bigger car and the better job and the hotter wife and the better grades that we are going to get the right alliance, and we don't. Okay. So every single person, place, thing, or situation that causes a problem in a client's life is representation of mother and father. And you ask them, who does this remind you of? Doesn't really matter. That's the secret. The secret of step one is it doesn't matter. It's to get the person situated that they're the child. And you can tell them that. You can go, it really doesn't matter. Mother, father, or both? Both. Okay, it's both. Great. You understand that the source of conflict is a parent. And it means that if the source of conflict is a parent, that you have a parent and you have a child transaction. Therefore, it's uneven. And you are all adults in here. Why do you want to have an interaction with your supervisor where that person is your parent and you show up as a child? That sucks. But if you don't like your boss, and I ask you, is your boss your mother or your father? And you say your father, that means that you're the child. And now you have been regressed back to childhood when really you're an adult. That's not how you're acting. And if you don't act like an adult, you're not showing up as an adult, you're not adulting. The model is child, teenager, and the part that makes us change is the adult. That's how this model is split up. Child, teenager, adult. Super simple. Okay? But I want you to understand why this first rule is so important. And sometimes, and that's the beauty of this model, is that one question can be the source of the whole session, Jen, because you're getting a whole story. So if someone says to me, oh, that my boss is my father, and my father would do that, and blah, 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 you're seeing the client go into child mode. You're already seeing